Hi everyone, let us solve today's problem of the day, that is isomorphic string. What is the question state is that given two strings str1 and str2, check if these two strings are isomorphic to each other, right? So what is an isomorphic string is that if the character in str1 can be changed to get str2, then two strings str1 and str2 are isomorphic to each other, right? So a character must be completely swapped out for another character while maintaining the order of the characters, right? So, what is the question stating is that we have two strings and we have to tell if both of them are isomorphic to each other. So, what exactly is a isomorphic string? Is that if we can convert this particular str1 to our str2 in such a way that we are swapping out all the occurrences of a particular character to another character, right? And the mapping is one to one, that is we cannot change the mapping. For example, if we have str1. Okay, so for example, we have str1 as AAB and str2 as XXY. Let us see why this particular example is an example of isomorphic strings. So all the occurrences of a particular character should be mapped to a single character, right? So that if we swap that particular occurrence or all the occurrences of a character, it should be mapped to a same character. So, for example, if we have A is mapped to X, right? So, that is the first occurrence of A. We have a second occurrence of A that is again mapped to our X, right? And we have B which is mapped to Y. So, this particular pair of string is isomorphic strings, okay? So, let us see this example. So, we have A, and XYZ. So, the first occurrence of A is mapped to X. So we can till now we can say that okay, this string is isomorphic strings, okay? So then we have again A which is mapped to Y. So here is the conflict which occurs, okay? So why? Because A is already mapped to X. So we cannot have another occurrence of A which is being mapped to another character, right? So in that case, this particular strings fail to be an isomorphic strings, okay? So what is the logic behind these isomorphic string is that, let us say if string 1 is isomorphic to string 2, that means string 2 is also isomorphic to string 1, right? For example, let us take this particular example itself. If A is mapped to X, we can also say that X is mapped to A, right? X is mapped to A, and then again we have an occurrence of X which is again mapped to A, so we can say that this is holding true till now. And then we have a B which is mapped to, sorry, we have a Y which is mapped to B again. So this is the second occurrence, so we can say that Y is mapped to B. So that is when we can say that these particular strings are isomorphic to each other. What am I trying to say is that if str1 is isomorphic to str2, then str2 is also isomorphic to str1, right? For example, if we see in this case, we have A mapped to X, right? And then we have that means X is mapped to A, right? X is mapped to A. Then we have A mapped to Y. So here the conflict comes out. Okay, so why? Because we already have an occurrence of A inside our mapping, right? We already have an occurrence of A which is being mapped to X. So that should be the condition which should be followed. But it is again coming up with another instance of A, right? And here we can say that Y is mapped to A. So in this case, in the second hash map, that will not create a conflict because I'm having another instance of character. But in this map, we can get a conflict. So I hope you're clear with this. So what we can do, what is the logic behind this particular algorithm which we will be creating, is that if one string is isomorphic to other string, then the second string should also be isomorphic to the first string, right? So what we can do is we can create two mappings, right? Two hash map, we can have two hash map, and we'll be simultaneously creating mappings from str1 to str2 and str2 to str1, right? So what am I trying to say is that while we are iterating the first character, let us say A is mapped to X, so A is mapped to X, right? And then we have X mapped to A, so in the second map I will take X is mapped to A. Okay, then we have a map to x again, so that we already have, and x map to a, that we already have, b map to y, b map to y, and y map to b. Okay, but let us say where this part, so for this example it passes all the cases, right? But let us say we have another example, that is this one, right? So a is mapped to x, that is fine. Oh, sorry. A is mapped to x, and x is mapped to a, right? Then we have a mapped to y, or let's say y mapped to a, y is mapped to a, y is mapped to a, but a again mapping to y. So which will not hold, right? Which will not hold. So you can see in this case, for one mapping we can create the mappings, but for a other hash map I'm not able to create it. So anywhere if I'm getting this conflict, and what is the conflict? If that particular element is already present in my hash map, then it should follow the order which was present earlier, right? It cannot have another new instance. So this is what the logic will be. I will be showing up the code. Okay, so this is the code. First of all, for any two strings to be isomorphic, their length has to be equal, right? So if they are not of equal length, you cannot say that they cannot be made equal to each other. So first condition would be, if both of its length are not equal to each other, then we will return a false. Else we are creating two mapping of elements. One of them is from str1, character str1 to str2, and other is from str2 to str1, right? So we'll be iterating through the one of the string length, and we will check, okay, these are the condition wherein we return a false. So if that particular element is already present in my map, and if it is not equal to my str2 of I, that is my current element, right? So in that case I can return a false, and this is vice versa when we are considering the condition of the second mapping, right? So if that particular string is already present, and if it is not equal to the earlier condition, then it is not true. Okay, but else we can just store both the characters in simultaneous mappings and return true if it passes all the conditions. So I hope you're clear with this approach. Thank you.